Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Rasmussen. I am the Business Continuity and Emergency Manager for Pacific University. I've been in the field of emergency management for almost 15 years now. I started out as a storm chaser in Texas, so please forgive the accent. And I quickly discovered that I had a passion for emergency management and a need to serve my community better. I've worked in city and county government as well as the private tech sector before joining Pacific University in February of 2019, where I've been tasked with building a brand new Office of Business Continuity and Emergency Management, more simply referred to as BCEM. I would love to spend hours talking with you about emergency management and everything that entails. But today I have something short and sweet for you. Maybe bittersweet is a better term. So let's get started. Today's presentation will cover one of the most important aspects of an individual's personal role and responsibility in emergency and disaster response. Welcome to No One is Coming to Save You. Seems harsh, doesn't it? Maybe I should stress that before response comes preparedness. So let's try this again. Welcome to Prepare as if no one is coming to save you. That's a little more palatable, don't you think? Preparedness allows us to have some control over our fight or flight instincts. Preparedness allows us time to step back and take a quick breath before panic and anxiety can take over. Preparedness allows us to adapt to unknown or unpredictable conditions and situations. I can speak at length about preparedness and all of the aspects surrounding it, but today's presentation is intended to just be an introduction to the concept of preparedness and hopefully leave you with the desire to learn more and hopefully do more to prepare you, your family, loved ones, and friends for unexpected events. I will quickly cover how to do a basic risk assessment, what personal preparedness looks like in 5 steps. I will stress the downstream consequences on larger systems when you are not prepared, and I will point you towards some resources to get your preparedness journey started. Preparedness is unique to each person, and you should always begin with an assessment of hazards and risks you are most susceptible to. This chart is a very high-level view of locations in which a majority of our Pacific University community resides. How prepared are you for these? Does it feel overwhelming? These types of disasters, the types of disasters you may face can range from something relatively familiar and somewhat easy, like winter weather, to something unimaginable and inconceivable, like a catastrophic earthquake or a volcanic eruption. This information is pulled directly from each county's hazard mitigation plans, which you can find on their websites. You may even think of some hazards that aren't listed, but the reality is that you prepare for all of these in very much the same way. In emergency management, we like to say that if you're prepared for the biggest disaster, you are prepared for all disasters. As you prepare, do your own risk assessment based on where you live, work, have family, etc. The more you know, the more resilient you become. Resiliency is the ability to withstand or recover quickly from difficult situations. Resiliency is super important because help may not be coming as quickly as you think. Remember the title slide, No One is Coming to Save You? It can feel like that, especially in situations where responding is extremely difficult. Let's look at a few scenarios. The Cascadia earthquake has the potential to devastate our area and create transportation issues, and response will be significantly hindered. Events like Cascadia create mass destruction, and when roads are impassable and hospitals are decimated, it takes longer for responders and supporting agencies to reach you. During an evacuation event, first responders may be placing themselves at higher and unnecessary risk if they have to come find and or rescue you. Active threat events, which include active shooter or hostage situations, have very unpredictable response times. Even though responders can arrive within minutes, it may take time for them to safely navigate to your location. Active threat preparedness is an entirely different conversation with some very specialized training associated with it. There are resources that focus just on active threats, and you can reach out to me for more specific information if you are interested and want to learn more. Keep in mind that active threat preparedness can also apply to civil unrest and even domestic violence. To give you a better idea of why it may take responders a while to get to you, I wanted to show you a segment of a personal video taken by an EMS team who were responding to the 2015 Joplin, Missouri tornado. This team was deployed from Springfield, Missouri, which is about an hour away from Joplin. But I believe for this event, it took them almost 2 hours to arrive on scene due to weather, traffic, and road closures. As you can see, most street signs and landmarks are gone. The large white building you see there in the background, that was the hospital. At this point in the video, the EMS team is trying to locate the temporary tent hospital, but are having trouble because of the lack of signage and landmarks. You can see that this tornado devastated this town. This tornado, like many, struck at night. When these responders arrived, it was pitch black. They made several runs back and forth to transport patients, and they really only made 3 round trips, I believe, the night before, and they only transported 6 patients in that time. That's not a lot, especially when you look at the numbers. There were more than 1,000 injured. Most of these people had to depend on themselves and their neighbors in the immediate aftermath of the storm. By being prepared and helping each other, they freed up resources for the more seriously injured people. I have 10 years experience responding to tornadoes, and I will tell you that every single incident is completely different in scope, outcome, damage, and recovery. But by preparing for one tornado, you can build your resiliency and adaptability for other tornadoes or really any destructive event. To prepare for these types of events, there are some very simple steps you can follow. These 5 steps are the foundation for your personal preparedness. We've already discussed the importance of assessing your risk and understanding the hazards you are most likely to encounter. Once you have this information, you can begin to build a kit. These kits, often called go bags or bug out bags, are unique to each person. There are companies that sell emergency kits, and they're great starters. But what you have to do is get those and then add your own personal items to any kit you purchase. I recommend having multiple kits that fit different situations, and make sure you change the contents out based on season. Winter versus summer clothes, having a kit in your car, having a kit in your office or your dorm, all recommendations. Making a kit doesn't even have to be complicated or expensive. Don't let it overwhelm you. You can start small and build it as you go along. For example, instead of donating your old hiking boots or sneakers, throw them in your car or pack them in your go bag. They may come in handy later. Your next important step is to make a plan. Families and roommates should talk about how they plan to respond during events, how they will try to communicate with one another, where they will meet, etc. Then here's the most important part. Please hear me. You have to practice the plan. Go get your go bags out and run a pretend scenario. Have fun with it. Grab your go bags and go camping in the backyard and see what else you might need. Practice, practice, practice. Another key step is to stay informed. Staying informed helps you get ahead of the game and gives you time to execute your plan and stage anyone or anything you need for a particular scenario. Watch the news, look at weather reports, ask questions, be alert, look around you for other hazards, and never, ever, ever assume that it won't happen to you. If you just prepare for yourself and your family, that's great. This is more than what so many people are doing already. But if you want to build even more resiliency and create a stronger community and increase your survivability, then look at step number 5, get involved. Getting involved doesn't mean you have to give up your free time and join a bunch of volunteer groups, but maybe join one local group, even if it's just part-time. What's really easy is to get involved where you already are, like work or school. If nothing else, get involved with your neighborhood by just getting to know your neighbors. What kind of help will they need in a disaster? What kind of help can they offer? They might be your actual first responder while you wait for professionals. You might be theirs. Neighbors helping neighbors not only aided the response to the power line fire, which impacted our immediate area, it also aided the recovery process, which is still ongoing. During the fire, neighbors were knocking on each other's doors to make sure folks got out. They were assisting by moving larger animals and in some cases even loaning trucks and trailers so that people could move horses and other livestock more quickly. This picture was taken by the Forest Grove Fire Department as they responded to and assisted with fighting the power line fire in Gaston. This was very close to home. Some of you may remember all of the smoky, hazy, horrible days that we had back in September. All that smoke came from this fire and several others burning in the region. Based on this experience, it would be hard to see why anyone wouldn't want to prepare. But there are always excuses. The most common excuses are, the government will save me. I've heard people say, I pay my taxes. I pay the salary of those fire and police personnel. They need to keep us safe. They will save me. They have to save me. The reality is that if they have to save everyone, they will likely not be able to save more than a few. This is a much deeper topic that deserves its own presentation. It gets into entitlements and touches heavily on racial and social justice. Another excuse is that it can't happen to me. I have included a few movie and documentary recommendations at the end of this presentation. Watch some of those. Those survivors may have thought nothing like that would ever happen to them. I bet they won't ever think that again. Or how about this excuse? Maybe it won't be so bad. Your definition of bad may depend on how prepared you are. This is also in line with thinking that it won't happen to you. Maybe it won't happen to you. Maybe it won't be so bad for you. But what about your family on the other side of the river, or your friends at the coast, or your elderly parents trapped in a care home? Do you think it might be bad for them? Then there's the defeatist attitude, the there's nothing I can do about it anyway attitude. Isn't there? Isn't there something you can do about it? There is almost always something you can do about it. You have to believe that you have the power to at least influence what happens to you in an emergency. In emergency management, we see this a lot with the elderly and aged populations. They say things like, I've had a good life. I don't think I'd have the will or the energy to survive something like that. But the reality is the first responders will still try to help you regardless. Family members may still risk their own lives to get to you. Have this conversation with your elderly family members or anyone else who feels like there's nothing they can do about it. Encourage them to have a plan and think about their preparedness. There are consequences to all of these excuses. Consequences for you and your loved ones, because all of these excuses have downstream impacts on larger systems that are designed to help you, but could become overloaded, strained, or exhausted just because those who can didn't. 911 can quickly become overloaded and is expected to barely function after the Cascadia earthquake, if at all. There are only so many fire, police, and EMS personnel who are able to respond. Remember, they are human and they are likely experiencing the same tragedy, loss, and fear that you are during a local disaster. When the Paradise, California fire swallowed the town, one of the officers directing the evacuation and going house to house watched his own house burn, but he had to keep working. He still had to serve his community. Resources that should go to more vulnerable populations are more quickly depleted when people are not prepared, and fear and anxiety is through the roof. Every emergency creates fear and anxiety. There's no escaping that. We know this. But the amount of fear and anxiety and the ability to adapt and cope is greatly improved the more prepared you are. Whatever you can do to prepare, please do it. Response becomes less successful, more costly, and more deadly because those who can build kits and develop plans didn't. Those who could evacuate didn't. Those who could help their neighbors didn't. As a result, those who could have survived may not. These are pictures provided by Joseph Schmidt's class of 23. Joseph is part of our Pacific University family, and he answered the call and responded to the 2020 Echo Mountain fires on the coast. This is why preparedness is important. Your preparedness allows Joseph and this amazing team to be more successful in doing what needs to be done when they respond to these types of events. If you don't see the need to be prepared in your own situation or circumstance, do it for them, for the responders like Joseph and his team. Do it so they can keep pushing forward and save those who can't instead of those who won't. This is the bigger picture. Even with all these resources and steps to guide you, it is important to understand that preparedness is much more than just building a kit and having a plan. It is impossible to prepare for every single aspect or outcome of a disaster. But the more prepared you are, the more your mind and body can adapt to what is happening. Preparing is a physical and mental undertaking. Your kit and your plan only work if you trust in yourself and prepare yourself physically, mentally, and even socially for emergencies and disasters. This means understanding your risks and your own capabilities. The quote here at the bottom speaks directly to that and is one that I use quite frequently. In the realm of emergency management, it basically speaks to the fact that being truly prepared means being able to access your resources and communicate your needs, and being able to learn and grow as you experience a variety of crises. It's about knowing yourself, about knowing your risk, and then putting those together. Earlier, I said that the more you know, the more resilient you are. When we are talking about preparedness, it is also true that the more you know, the less you need. If you have what you need, you can be a survivor. Be a survivor. Be your own first responder. I mentioned resources earlier, and here are some quick links to get you started. You will be provided with an actual copy of this presentation, and each of these reference icons in that will be linked to helpful websites. When in doubt, just do some Googling. I've got some keywords there at the bottom for you. Look locally in your home cities, counties, countries. Countries are especially important when you're traveling as well. So look at your home countries, look at places you may be traveling to. There are just so many resources at your fingertips. Here are a few documentaries and movies based on true stories that I highly recommend. I will warn you, they can be hard to watch. Even with all my experience, I still have trouble getting through some of the scenes in these movies and documentaries. Read about them and watch the trailers before diving in if you think any of these may be triggering for you. The first one there, Rebuilding Paradise, is about the Paradise, California fires in the fall of 2018. It's a fascinating documentary that covers response and recovery. It goes from the start of the fires to like a year later and how this community recovered. The Impossible is a true story dramatization of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. This one follows a vacationing family as they fight to survive in the aftermath of that tsunami. This one was a little tough for me. There's some scenes that are really hard, especially if you are a parent, so I will warn you. Shockwave is a documentary that will give you some insight into the Cascadia earthquake, which has the potential to be a catastrophic 10.0 earthquake right here in our backyard. The state of Oregon has been and continues to prepare for this event, and expect to hear a lot more from BCEM about the Cascadia earthquake. Trouble the Water, y'all, Trouble the Water gets me every time. I've seen it many, many times, and I still choke up. I still cry. It's a documentary about the aftermath of Katrina and its impacts on vulnerable and marginalized communities. And it takes a really harsh look at disaster recovery through the lens of justice. Um, I could talk, I could do a whole presentation on just that documentary. So y'all, whew, these hit on events and situations where maybe no one is coming to save you, at least not quickly, because they simply can't. Which is why you should prepare as if no one is coming to save you. Prepare as if you are your own first responder. Preparedness is a process. And if you would like more information or would like to schedule some time for BCM to meet with you or a group of folks or an organization you're a part of, please reach out to me. I'm available to come chat with you about preparedness, response, recovery, mitigation, storm chasing, whatever. We can Zoom, we can phone call, whatever works for you all. But please reach out to me and we'll get you set up and we'll chat some more. So that is all. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. I look forward to chatting with you all in some panel discussions or just one-on-one as you guys reach out to me. So I hope you're all enjoying the class. And with that, have a good day.